Good evening, Big Brother Hometowns. We got a lot to discuss. We've got Liv winning a veto when her back's against the wall, Madison's ultimate backdoor, and then Liv rising to power and making her nominations tonight. We got a lot to discuss. Joining me is a slew of production members and one non-prod. Let's bring on the non-prod. He won 18. It's Foser.
I didn't have anything planned today, but I'm in recovery from Madistan and feeling much better. So thank you again, everyone. Oh, yay, balloons.
Fucking balloons. Let's bring in the production member who also has won this game. It's Max Teddy.
Woo!
Fireworks for Teddy.
I also am prepared.
Let's bring in the person who was furthest from winning this game. It's Kadri.
Not Liz.
Are we choosing violence tonight?
We
I'm
are.
just saying, mathematically.
Oh. Of course he is.
I was the first person who was the furthest from winning. Then you're the next person furthest from winning.
Wait, what is Tay's placement?
4th place.
Hey.
Oh, I'm
Thanks.
surprised.
That's right.
That's the wiki.
I wasn't lying. And then somehow he got 2nd place. It's Lee.
I took Tay out.
Ew.
No, and every time I learn about BBH and like the history, there are 2 winners that I'm like the most surprised by. It's Gray Price and Max Teddy. I'm so sorry, but like, who the hell?
Well, Gray won because the Emmys weren't on that night.
And Max won because he played with all of his friends. It was during.
You're not gonna rebuttal? You don't have anything to say against that?
I had my brother, and then I didn't know anybody else in BBH3. So, but there were other pairs of real life friends that were there. So,
was it the Emmys or was it the Oscars? I can't remember.
I think it was.
There was no award show on, so Gray could show up to the finale.
R.I.P. Gray and the Traitors. What a disaster. Alrighty. We got 2 days to cover. Where we left off, Megs is your head of household. She has nominated Michael and Liv for eviction, but she has a sneaking suspicion that a renom will be necessary because Megs knows she didn't do well in it. Preston is telling her he did do well in it, and he wants to use Liv. Liv has to compete. Michael has to compete. So she's already in the mindset of, well, a renom is necessary. This entire time, she's been telling us it'll be Trey. She also hasn't promised Trey anything, but the issue is some of her top allies in Caro, Jabbar, and Megan have either posed alliances with Trey or have deemed him as untouchable, which puts her in a very interesting position. So coming into day 7, she has told us that she is leaning off of Trey and looking towards breaking her word with someone like Madison or Lamont or Victoria. Thoughts on Megs and her decision to ultimately go back on a decision or a promise she made to someone in the game?
Her main goal at this point is to nominate somebody that will go home because she's telling Michael that she wants him to stay. And Trey does not accomplish that. Trey sends Michael home. And so she has to go back to the drawing board and go through her Rolodex. And since earlier, she kind of limited her nominations to like a very small subsection of the cast. Like she is kind of, by making this decision that she wants Michael to stay, she has backed herself into a corner where she has to go forward. And if she's going to do that, then she better hope that the person she nominates goes home. And it's a good thing that it's pre-jury. Let's just say that. No thoughts?
Go ahead. I'm hard for words. I think, because I'm also trying to speak sequentially, because I know that we're going to be covering like later stuff later, but I think that I think what's happened with Megs is the beginning of a trend that we're now seeing that has just happened now, and that I think a lot of these people are letting other people control their HOHs, and I am seeing a pattern of maybe Caro and Jabbar controlling HOHs.
I mean, Meg's definitely. I mean, that's the thing. It's hard. It's early Big Brother, so it's really difficult. When you get to later Big Brother, it doesn't matter. You do it how you want. But early Big Brother, it's so much about building this army, and building an army is 50% not nominating people, but also 50% not nominating people they like as well. You have to show trust and show that y'all are on the same wavelength. So I think Megs makes a good pivot here to obviously, I think, prioritize her relationships with Megan and Caro, and put up someone that isn't Trey. And I think she also makes a good move to recognize that she's breaking a deal once again. For 2 rounds in a row, she has said something and gone back on it. So good on her to also recognize that this person needs to go home. Whoever I renom and I break my word to, they need to go.
But also good on her to recognize that her initial strategy of keeping her original house and season safe doesn't make sense this early, because it blocks off an entire group of people that you don't feel good with. And so even though you do kind of have to rip off the Band-Aid of, I said this and now I'm going back on it, ultimately in the long run, you are going to get out somebody who you don't feel as good with. So it will probably be okay, but there's just like a short-term unnecessary pain because you like made too many promises early on.
Yeah. And Madison was going to nominate Megs if she got HOH, as was Rizzo, Victoria, like, and so promising all these people safety is just silly. But of course, Megs didn't know that. But Megs had a feeling that she was being looked at like that by the people in the bubbly house. So
I have a feeling like this is going to be the theme of the season, is just like promising people safety early and then going back on your word. I've heard it today already on calls and whatnot. It's just like, hey, y'all are returners. Like, you know how an HOH should go. Yeah. And right now they're just leading a freaking TED Talk and what not to fucking do.
Like, this is how people get their feelings.
Yeah, you could say, I don't know. I can't promise anything for veto if a veto gets used. I hope it doesn't get used, but you're safe right now.
Yeah.
That at least gives you an out to nominate them if veto is used.
That's all you have to say.
Like, keep safety for the people you know under no fucking circumstances would you ever touch. Like, save that shit for your top 3, 4, 5 people.
But
anyone else?
No. Really going to the entire house and saying, hey, by the way, you're safe. And then you're like, oh shit, I've only told one person that they're not safe. Who else am I going to put up with them? Like, stop the madness.
His voice of anger, just in everyday life, I've found in my experience, is people get angry when their expectations are not met. And so you really have to manage your expectations. If people are not expecting safety from you, then they will take it so much better than if they're like taken by surprise. And so that's something, especially with a cast this large, or still this large, like, you want as many options as possible. So yeah, like Carl said, save it for your top 3, but like nobody else deserves that safety from you, like as a confirmation that early on.
I think some of the issues that I'm having here is, and then I'll tell you why I'm getting here, but I think people are too quick to tell other people what they're going to do that involves someone else before they talk to that person. And it's kind of like when you're in a bad relationship, or like you have a bad fight, and you tell all your family and friends, like, my significant other sucks. And so then when you like maybe want to do something else, you can't really do anything else because you've convinced them all that like this is what you need to do. You need to get away. And like it's probably a bad comparison, but like if you then do something against that, that's bad. So then like going to Madison, and maybe Meg really wanted to be talked out of it, but she's put herself in a place where she can't do anything other than what she said she was going to do. But the drill down issue for me is the whole round has been about Meg's reflecting on how her game relationship with Caro is really not where she wanted it to be, how their games are not aligning, how they are not wanting to work with the same people, but she's essentially letting Caro and Caro's people not dictate, because Meg's does what she wants ultimately, but she's letting that weigh so heavily on her decisions because she doesn't want to make waves there. And I don't think I think their relationship is strong enough that as long as Megs doesn't put up Caro, like Caro is not going to come for Megs. But I think Megs is so like wanting to make that relationship work in this game that she's wanting to do whatever it takes to not make those waves. And it's going to cost her people that we're not going to come after her. Now, unbeknownst to her, Madison was kind of coming after her, but apply that logic to other people, and Megs could have chopped off a finger that was actually useful. So that's kind of the issue that I'm having here.
Well, I think my big issue with Megs' HOH is the fact that she let one of her initial noms essentially run it. Like, Olivia did that. Immediately was on call with her talking about, hey, if the veto is used, how do we make the renom be something that's beneficial for both of us? Which I'm like, that is genius.
No, she said, how do we make the renom something that keeps both me and your other nominee safe?
Like literally. So like, we can sit here and say that Megs is going to do whatever the hell Megs does, and like to an extent, yes, but it's all being done like a puppeteer. Like, yeah, she's doing what she wants to do, but who the hell is pulling the strings? And like, they are playing her for a fucking fiddle.
Well, I think part of it is the fact that Megs didn't have a lot of good reasons to go off of, and so then she felt like shit for them, and so she's like, I see this as damage control, and she's falling for this idea that, hey, if I help them, then they won't come for me if they win power the next time. Which is kind of a naive approach to a game with like a returner season and all of these layered relationships and all of these big egos. It's a naive approach, but I get like it's players have main character syndrome until they're getting blamed for something, and then they're like, hey, if this person tells me what to do on the HOH, then I can just put some of the blame on them. It doesn't matter. You were HOH. You're going to get the blame for most of the stuff that happened because you're the person that did it. Even if you put up who Liv wants or who Michael wants or anything like that, you still took a shot at them. And I just think that it's a very naive way to approach the game. I'm a little surprised that we're just like, hey, let's let our initial nominees tell us what to do here.
Yeah,
I think too, like Madison, yes, was a good person for Megs to get out, but also Madison was also at the bottom of the house. That was a house target. Everyone wanted Madison out. I think Madison was a very easy nominee for anyone. So it's like Madison didn't have anyone. So in one way, it's like Megs not putting her up probably would have built a pretty good bridge with Madison moving at least for the next round. But I don't know. You just got someone else out of the house that nobody really cared about staying in the house anyway, really.
And we might have, sadly, another round of that here in round 3. But we'll cross that bridge when we cross it. I mean, let's get through kind of Megs's day 7 damage control list of calls, kind of her attempt to kind of rewrite what she is deeming as wrongs for her initial noms. I mean, realistically, Megs and Liv should have bonded more. Like, they are too similar, and they just didn't have a strong first call because Megs was super tired, yada, yada, yada. And I think Megs realizes that she didn't give Liv a fair chance. So I think on day 7, she's really trying to repair that, but it's kind of hard to repair after you nominate someone in round 2 when you have 16 people to choose from. But, who's here? It's not there here or there, but calls Liv. And that's when, Kadri's already told it that Liv is like, how can we make a renom that keeps both me and Michael in the game? We repair that bond, and we can strike some kind of deal for safety moving forward. We know Liv has no intention on honoring this, as denoted by all of day 8. But great move on her because Liv was very upset with Megs. You've seen snippets of her confessional. She's not happy. More so, it was part she's on the block, it's part Michael's on the block, but the biggest thing was she didn't feel like Megs gave her a chance. She called Liv and basically was like, Liv, you're going up on the block. Didn't want to hear anything Liv had to say. So it was all 3 of those things that made her really pissed. So now Liv is finally being able to kind of pitch for herself and pitch for her game, but also for Michael's game. And it's actually falling on ears this time, which is making Liv obviously happier than she was the day prior. But this is kind of what sets into motion this idea of reaffirming Megs and Megs' opinion that she needs to go back on a deal and just nominate someone she doesn't feel good with. Fuck her OG season or fuck her OG house. She should have done this to begin with, which I kind of agree. But she got there, so that's all that matters. But I think this call with Liv really reassures Megs that she's going in the right path. She then calls Rick, where Rick is Megs' number 1, and they spill a bunch of shit to each other. Trey had come up with this alliance that was Jabbar, Trey, Caro, and Megs that Trey came up with. Jabbar pushed it to Megs, and Megs shut it down pretty quickly. Megs then gets replaced with Megan. I forget which alliance that is. That
Bathroom D.
Bathroom D that gets formed, but that I was like, which alliance is that one? So basically fully aware that Jabbar, Trey, and Caro are kind of a little bit of a package deal, which isn't shocking. Not shocking at all. They've been kind of intertwined since the beginning of this game, but basically just kind of hashing out that Trey and Jabbar are close and Caro and Trey are super close. They're really having a good read on kind of who to be careful around. If you're wanting to talk shit about Caro, you sure as hell don't tell Trey or Jabbar that. They're also kind of just breaking down some other relationships in the house, but the big one is that Sarah's relationships in the house are not solid. She's kind of being deemed kind of a little bit of a wild card. A good chunk of people think she's a little bit inactive, or that the text conversations are a little dry and not productive. And what makes Erica such a great ally is she tells Sarah. Megs is holding on to this, not telling her. Erica goes straight to Sarah, being like, "Hi, I'm being told you're a wild card and your text conversations suck. Let's fix this. I want you to be here."
Yeah.
And that's a good ally. To be like,
She
hey,
is the perfect ally for Sarah.
Because Megs is just going to sit there and let that narrative exist. Obviously, Megs is hiding her relationship with Sarah. Erica said, fuck it, I don't care. I'll go straight up and tell her. So, obviously, Sarah's been busy this weekend with family, but at least Sarah comes in today. She got back home like 5 o'clock Eastern today. But Sarah now knows that she needs to pick it up more than just a natural pickup because she's been gone. She's got to pick it up even more because now she knows that some people in this house would nominate her. Obviously, Sarah's been very lucky with now 3 HOH wins that none of them would touch her because there's a good chunk of people who would. So I'm hoping this is another opportunity for Sarah to build something up because eventually that luck will run out. And it almost did with Louise winning. Came down to a tiebreaker. So the luck will run out eventually. It's just a question of when.
I think her luck runs out after she wins HOH. I just know it's coming, and it's going to be great TV for all of us.
Yeah, but just wanted to highlight that. I thought the Triple Threat Femmes are an interesting trio that I've got my eyes on. I just am really impressed with Megs and Erica and how they're managing Sarah and keeping her informed and in the loop, and just how they're working together. Because I just don't see anyone pegging those three together as a group. A lot of the other alliances are pretty clear as day to the house. Because, Caro and Trey are in half of them, and Caro and Trey are in half of them, and Caro and Trey aren't very good about hiding where they stand with each other. They very much highly talk about each other to others, and everyone's fully aware that Caro and Trey are together.
I was just looking at the alliance chat, and I think all but one alliance that Caro has, Trey is all but two that Caro has, Trey is in.
And all but two that Trey has, Caro is in.
Yeah, they're all like intertwined with each other, and I'm like, y'all are like, that's really dangerous because they're all with different people that are also all intertwined together. So all it takes is one conversation for that to come crumbling down as an actual, like, we knew they were close, but
yeah, now we know they're.
I think the thing that Erica and Megs are doing, I don't think necessarily that they're positioned better, but I think the thing that Erica and Megs are doing to position themselves better, maybe long term, is that they're not putting themselves in a lot of groups together. Like, they're in groups, but they're not together, so they can kind of cover their bases. I agree. I think Caro and Trey are just putting themselves out there too obviously. And while I thought Caro was playing a really dangerous game, now I think they're both playing a really dangerous game. The thing that's really hard about it is I think that Caro has better relationships even than Trey, and I think Trey could end up taking the fall for that again. So maybe that's the good thing, is maybe she wants an accomplice, so they take that person out and it's not just her getting clocked. And so maybe that's somewhat intentional, but it's just so like in your face almost. Like, it's like if you've seen like the memes of like early on in BB25 when they were like Suri's just playing in all these people's faces, like that's what Caro's doing. She's playing in all these people's faces, and they seemingly don't care.
Because they know a little bit. Like, people have kind of mentioned, oh, everyone feels good with Caro. Everyone likes Caro. But I just know I would make a mistake. Like, I just know I would be smoking and on the call and be like, well, with blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, wait, was that this call that I had in this chat, or was that the other chat? Like, they're one people apart, some of them.
Yeah. They have one with Trey, Caro, and Megan, and that's just a 3, and then they add Jabbar to make a 4th bathroom D, and I'm like,
yeah, it's.
I can't say anything because I was in 4 trios that were all literally the same people in 18, but at one point we all knew, and we came together as a 4. So okay.
Well, Caro was talking today about like, oh, I kept thinking there's a big alliance, but I don't think there is one. And people are like, you can be in it, first of all. But I'm like, she's like, I didn't know there was an alliance bigger than 3. And like, but I'm like, but you're in like 7 of them.
No, so. the big alliance is Caro is the trunk of the tree.
Yeah.
I will say though, I do think it's gonna. I think it's gonna work out for them, and they are just going to. Both Caro and Trey are going to do very well, and not be touched, looked at, anything for it, potentially even as far as jury, as soon as jury starts, because I think everyone wants to believe that they are closest to them.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone wants to believe that Caro and Trey are with them, and that everything else is just to get information. So I don't see them, like, while I do think they're going to be looked at a certain point, and then it's like, GG's, good luck, you have to win to survive. But I don't see them being touched at all for the next several rounds.
Caro and Trey are almost giving me like, Tay, I don't know if this feels similar to you, but Caro and Trey are almost giving Dan and Ange.
I don't know.
Like the sense of like everyone kind of knew they were this entity. Like I don't think it was ever a surprise to anyone in 15 that they were kind of an entity playing together and like, involved in a lot of stuff. And yet seemingly no one really cares to do anything about it for quite a bit. So
Right now, at least.
Blake, if you're watching, we need an update in the stats channel of the charts that show like how crossed up all the alliances are.
yeah, because they've definitely
really
gotten more muddled.
Mhm.
I said in the prod chat that I was gonna do that. Like, I'm gonna create a web back here on this empty space. I did the
You don't have
beginning
enough landscape.
and it was mess, and I gave up.
Yeah. Kara and Trey will both fuck up that so hard. You're gonna have so many circles.
I got like literally 5 minutes in, and I was like, I'm not doing this. I'll let Blake digitize this some way somehow.
To wrap up Meg's storyline, to finish up her deal with Liv, she calls Preston because Preston's telling Megs, "Hey, I feel pretty good about my veto score," and it was a good veto score, just came up a little bit short. And Preston's like, "Yeah, I'm probably gonna save Liv. Sorry." And Meg's like, "Nope, super fine, super happy if you use the veto," and even encourages Preston to work with Liv and Michael to figure out a renom option that's even beneficial to all three of them. Meg's really trying to bring in as many people into the deal and feeling included because she didn't do a great job day one of her HOH. She didn't really include a lot of people into the plan, and a lot of people felt excluded, which made them feel like they weren't very high on Meg's trust rankings. Like she withheld a lot from people. And I think here on day 7, she tried a lot to try and include as many people as she could into the decision-making process, which was good on her. Ultimately, they landed on Christian and Madison as the names they wanted to push, which I think only did not help Madison's case because Christian wasn't really being considered. So I think those three coming back with Christian and Madison kind of solidifies Madison's fate here to end day 7.
Speaking of Christian, it's really interesting to me because we talk a lot in the VL. I think the players talk a lot, and they're like, "Oh, if Christian's on the block, he's getting evicted. Like, why would anyone do that? He's getting evicted." But there are so many people that are protecting him from going up on the block. So I think people are vastly underestimating his ability to stay. Like, I don't think that he stays against any person, but like there are people he stays against, I think, because there are a good chunk of people that are like, "No, I don't want to see Christian go up." And I almost wonder if they use that as a way to keep him off the block, but I don't think he actually leaves in all those scenarios.
Oh, I think he leaves in most scenarios. Like, Christian is liked by people, but he's just not high on anyone's rankings. He's like 8th or 9th on most people. Like, he's right in the middle. Like, he's just, I think most HOHs wouldn't nominate him because he's not low enough on their personal rankings. But if he's up against someone and it's that duality of it, no one's going to fight for him other than Michael.
Sure, don't put him up against Michael, but like he's going to leave.
Yeah, but Michael's the person who's going to fight.
But like, had he been up against Madison, if he's up against like Nikki, if he's up against some of these people, like I think people are thinking, "Oh, Christian leaves no matter who he's up against," and I just don't think that's true.
I think he has some hard-fought battles, but when you're having a hard-fought battle up against Nikki or Madison, like that's not a good thing. Like, you beat an 0-16 football team. Like, that's kind of like what it's giving me. It's like, ooh, you're so good. You beat the Pee Wee football team from down the street. Like, sure, he'll stay up against a few people, but he just isn't high enough on everyone. He's kind of missed the bus. Everyone's kind of left with their number 1s, their number 4s, and he's just kind of waiting to get picked up by someone. He just doesn't have anybody.
Even Michael, who is like number 1 for Christian, doesn't see Christian as a number 1. But also it's almost a disservice to Christian that he's not being nominated. I know that sounds weird, but like he doesn't have any idea that he's even an option. No one has told him that even his name is coming up in these cards. He thinks he's doing fine. Like, so fine that he will ignore the HOH for a second, wait 15 minutes, and then be like, "I'm here, by the way." And that's not the only time he's done this to people. Sarah has felt slighted by him when he's literally on call with someone else, ignoring their DMs when he said that he was ready to call. Like, he's dropping the ball. Don't tell 2 people at the same time that you can call both of them.
I think yes, that's all true, but also like he doesn't understand that he was a close option for Megs, or at least something that could have been considered. And when she saves him, it's just like, okay, thanks, bye. It's never like, oh, let's try and build something. Let's work together. Because clearly you not wanting to nominate me means that you would like to work with me over other people. So he is really like missing the mark on establishing something beyond, oh, thanks for not nominating me. Like, this is not round one anymore. Round one is where you do that shit. But then again, he used an HOH where he only had 5 choices to not build anything of substance with a single person.
To literally burn 3 people.
And he didn't prioritize the other houses. Like, as HOH, go call the other houses. Like, the houses are merging.
He didn't prioritize the other houses, and he didn't even make Megs and Louise feel like they were good with him. It was like they still felt like they could have been options.
Yeah. But he leaves only with really Louise as a decent connection. But yeah, like, he's not dead last in my rankings. Like, he's above a couple people. But yeah, if he's up on the block against most people, I fear for him. I'm not saying he'll go home against everyone, but he just doesn't have anyone in his corner. A vote with Christian on the block is more about the other nominee, sadly.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, it has nothing, like, a vote with Christian on the block has nothing to do with Christian. It comes down to, do we dislike the other nom more, or do we like the other nom more? Like, he's just neutral. He's just in the middle for people. And that's maybe not a great place to be in and not have anyone fighting for you. But we'll get more to kind of Christian's arc and where he stands in the game underneath the Liv HOH. But now it's time to read some people, particularly Jabbar. On day 7, and this really benefited Liv. Liv is a huge, benefactor of this. Why the hell are y'all talking so much about what you would do in a Liv Michael an eviction there, when the veto isn't done yet? So many people expressed, oh, I would save Michael. Oh, I would save Liv. And it got around to the point people had a decent idea, a list of who would save who. To the point where Caro called Liv before her veto, being like, babes, if you don't win and you stay up on the block, I don't know if I can save you. And Jabbar's going around. I mean, Jabbar literally told Liv to her face before the veto, yeah, I probably would evict you up against Michael. Why are you saying this? Like,
the only people you should be talking to is like the nominee you're wanting to save, and because you have a really good relationship. Like, I don't have a problem with you going to this person you consider a close ally and being like, hey, I'm going to vote to keep you no matter what.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm fine with that. I don't think you need to discuss it with every last person in the game.
Like, because this whole thing changed within minutes.
But I mean, Jabbar doing that though, and this will be mentioned later maybe, but like, she didn't mention him at all as a possible nominee.
Oh, in her DR she did. She said if she was going to go for Megs and felt like it, she would have put up Jabbar next to her. Okay. He almost found himself evicted. Come this round, had Liv.
Stay on mute then.
Well, it was quickly mentioned, and then she quickly was talked off of it because she does like Jabbar, but she definitely felt a bit kind of it very much how Nikki felt. Like, thank you for the candor. I appreciate your honesty, but also like, damn.
Yeah.
Okay. I just don't understand it. And it only helped Liv because Liv had names when she came to her HOH of people who knew that they were not giving her the time of day up against Michael, already had their mind made up. It only helped her because you idiots didn't wait until the nominations were final. As soon as Liv wins this veto and Madison is set as the renom, the eviction completely changed from being Liv likely going in like a 9-5 vote to Madison's out. She's gone. Like, how quickly this game changed when Liv won that veto. So why the fuck are y'all talking about who you're going to save or not? Just wait. Just chill.
For Liv's sake, I'm kind of glad that this did happen because I think it's a really big wake-up call to her positioning in the game. I mean, I don't think that she had ever said, oh, I'm in a great position, but I think that this has told her, like, I need to whip my game into shape a little bit more. I think it definitely fueled some of her calls last night, and the way that she approached those calls were very different.
I mean, I think that she sees her position more in the game, but she's not using this HOH to go after anyone who actually was not like Nikki. Sure, would probably have voted to evict Olivia, but not because of, but just because that's what everyone else was doing and they didn't have that strong of a connection. But like the people who were actively, who she thought she was good with, who were actively saying they weren't going to keep her, those people are still safe under her reign as HOH. So like she sees where she's at, but she's just trying to rebuild those connections. And the people that are safe are people who like are heavy hitters in games who like, why not take one of them out right now? Why not? What is Victoria? Everyone is saying they don't connect with Victoria. I'm going ahead. Sorry. But like, and you know, all these other people were going to vote you out that are really social, really connected. What are you doing?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a great point in the sense of like, when you know that these people that have their ears and everything, again, like not to jump ahead, but like these were even things before HOH was decided today, is there's a lot of things about who are the people that are taking my allies away from me? Who are the people that are standing in the way of me being successful? People like Victoria, Madison, Christian, people like that are not standing in the way of your game right now. And the sad thing is that these types of players right now are being underutilized, like for the value that they hold. They are so valuable if people just weaponize them. Like Trey, in my opinion, was one of them. Like he came in, someone probably a little underestimated, and he had someone who saw like, I want to use Trey and work with Trey in a way that's going to be good for me because I don't know who's going to pick him up. You had a couple of people that do that. But why don't we look at some of these other players? Like, I don't think it's a lack of trying in Victoria. That, you know, you could pick up a player like that as well who can do those things for you. But instead, you're like, let's just continue to acknowledge that there's this big, like, force out here that I can touch it and I can see it. And that force is like, they have power to make things happen, but that force was not going to let me stay in the game if I was on the block next to Michael. But instead of like wanting to come for that force, I would like to play around it.
I mean, again, I mean, you have yes and no. I appreciate that she is willing to see that some of those people that would have evicted her are only evicting her because they're both working with Michael and Liv. Like someone like Caro, like she's working with both of them. It's like fine. Trey is working with both of them, but like someone like Jabbar, Jabbar not included. But like I appreciate that Liv could differentiate people on the list, like being like, hey, like they're having a hard time because they're working with both of us versus you don't like me. So like I appreciate she has that differentiation, but like I agree that there's still a force that she's clearly aware of, that she's trying, that her HOH is rooted in wrong reads. Let's just, I mean, not to jump ahead, but like to jump ahead. She's trying to take a shot indirectly. She's trying to keep her deal with Megs, but she's trying to do exactly what Megs is doing. Megs made deals and take a shot at someone like Rizzo to still build the bond, but take someone off of his, you know, allyship. She's trying to do the same thing. Keep her deal with Megs, but take a shot off of Megs' team when I just don't think she has a good grasp as to who is on Megs' team, and that's the issue.
And you know what's so crazy about that thought is in 16, she was able to do that through other people. And I said in her pre-podcast thing that the difference for Liv going into this game is that she's going to have to make these moves herself. Like she's not going to be able to utilize people the way she did in 16. And now she's being put in this situation and she's failing. And we're starting to see, oh shit, she might be human.
She is human.
I think it's more like it wasn't coming as easier to her as it was in the past. But I think some of it is also not just like a failing of Liv, but it's also just speaking to really strong gameplay that like Caro shows. Like sometimes one of the things I've really noticed that Caro does really, really well, and that Jabbar has done a little bit as well, is that a lot of these players, they're not connected to each other. They're connected to each other through Caro. So like their relationship is based on their relationship with Caro, or their relationship with X person is based on their relationship with Jabbar. And so those two kind of gatekeep your relationships in this game right now. Like the classic, like Megs is connected to Trey, but is it through Trey? No, it's through Caro. Liv connected to Trey through Caro. Liv connected to Michael kind of through Caro. And so again, like this monopolization of the relationships is something else. It's like, I understand the sentiment that like Liv has had coming in and saying like these people stand in the way. But I think if you're going to say, I'm going to acknowledge it, I'm not going to do anything about it, you need to start making your own relationships. Like if the only way that you're talking to Jabbar is in a space that Caro's also in, or if the only space that you're talking to Trey is one that Caro's also in, that should be a big red flag for you.
I think too, what Olivia maybe is missing from this puzzle of her almost could have been evicted is that there are people who are working with both Liv and Michael, but were willing to take the shot at Liv because they see her as someone who is more strategic, a stronger game player, and they like Michael. So like, let's take her out now, basically. Like that's like Jabbar's reasoning really for going after Liv. Megan, Trey, like these people that, and Liv's not seeing that. It's not just because they're working with both of you. It's because if there's a chance if you're all up against each other again, they're going to take the shot at you.
Which, they did discuss yeeting Michael sooner rather than later, and Liv said it today, that Michael needs to go short term, because that perception of 16 still being together is going to linger, they like it or not, and the only way to get rid of it is to lose somebody. And I think
Louise.
Well, I mean, speaking of, she's the next person on my list, because ultimately Megs chooses to nominate Madison as the renom to send her home. Obviously, it's a little bit of damage control. She calls her bubbly house to be like, hey, I'm going to go back on the bubbly deal we made. I'm going to put up Madison, which Christian didn't care. He's like, as long as it's not Louise, I don't care. And Louise is like, oh, that's fine. I don't care. I mean, I wouldn't hate if a 16 person left either. We'll get to her in a second. And then Megs ultimately blames her nomination of Madison on the fact that she's worried that Bubbly will just get targeted moving forward if she doesn't show that she can target inward. She's worried that this Bubbly alliance will bleed in. It's just a ruse. It ultimately, there was no working relationship there. There's just nothing there. But that's the ruse she comes up with to put Madison up. But let's get to Louise, who her feelings are hurt. Let's just call a spade a spade. Her feelings are hurt that she was left out of the 16 alliance. I get that the alliance was made in relation to the Braun house, but ultimately it didn't need to disclude Louise. No. It didn't need to. Y'all can still discuss Braun shit in that alliance chat with Louise. Not like she's going to tell anyone. Her feelings are hurt. I mean, that's just the name of the game. And she's trying to balance this idea where she's telling 16, oh yeah, I'm leaning into the fact that y'all left me out. I'm leaning into it. But she's bringing it up so much to literally everybody to the point that I don't think that she's leaning into it. I think she's legitimately upset. And to the point now where she would have been fine sending a 16 person out under Megs just to get rid of this 16 aura that could get her into trouble if future HOHs want to take shots at a season that still has 4 representatives of it. So, Louise, love her, but damn, she brings up this damn alliance to anyone who will listen, anyone who will hear.
Controversially, I don't think it's a bad move. And here's why.
You wouldn't.
No, I mean, here's why. It's smart. It's propaganda. So she always talks about it in the sense of Michael leaks this. So it's like, whenever it gets talked to, like when Caro and Liv are like going back and scolding Michael, it's not about, oh, Louise has been spreading around we're in a trio chat. It's about Michael is leaking or accidentally leaked that we're in a trio chat. Louise is just saying, well, this thing that I thought everyone knew about is coming about, but it was Michael that spilled the beans. So then when people go off and talk about it, they're like, oh, this trio chat that Michael slipped up about. Like, I don't hate the move.
Except that when every time Michael is confronted about it, Michael's like, I haven't said anything.
And they don't believe him.
And pretty soon
they don't believe him. They don't believe him. So I think it's not a bad thing, because it's like, whether you believe him or not, Louise has this credible information about something that actually exists that she wouldn't have known about on her own. And so
my thing with it is I see it as a double-edged sword, because getting the rest of it, because you're bringing it up so much, clearly you do feel some type of way about it. And because of that, you're bringing it up to literally every single person that is not in that trio. So theoretically, you could get the entire house panicked about this trio to where one of them has to go out soon. So they're no longer a trio. They're just a duo. They're less threatening. But if any of the three of them know how hard and how much you're talking about the three of them, theoretically, Liv can go back on her deal that said Louise is fine this week and just be like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, you're spreading around this trio. You need to go. If Caro wins HOH, Louise can go. If Michael wins again, Louise can go, because all you're doing is making it worse for the three of us. And that's three people that can go against her instead of just one. But she's also trying to get the rest of the house against the three. So it's like, it's a good move, but it's not at the same time.
I mean, it is funny in the sense of, like, you think a 16 person needs to leave. Okay, it can be you.
That's the thing. Like, it's fine for now, but yeah, if people start comparing notes and Liv and Caro, like, where did you actually hear this from? And they go, oh, well, Louise told me, Michael told her, but Louise told me directly about it. Like, it's one thing for Michael to have leaked it to Louise, which is absolutely valid and factual, but it's another thing for you then to spread that to anyone you know. Like, it could have just been contained inward at 16.
Yeah.
It could have been, hey, Caro and Liv, it's me, Louise. Michael leaked to me the alliance y'all have, and y'all didn't include me. My feelings are a little bit hurt. Can we talk about it? Instead, she told Meg's the HOH, and everyone she's been on call with at this point. So, like,
every single person.
Literally.
And it's coming up on every single call as well.
And honestly, go
ahead.
If you're Caro and Liv and Michael, why not just do a bathroom D situation and just have your own little trio of brawn, but then make Louise a fourth and just like talking it half as much, so it seems like you care.
And that's the thing. Like, I don't think that the alliance that came out of Braun with Caro, Michael, and Liv could be like a legitimate alliance. Like, it's the same from 16 when me, Louise, and Michael had an alliance for the plague. Like,
it's a protection.
We just had something that we wanted to talk about. And they had something that they wanted, which is why, like, every time Louise brings it up, like, I get more and more angry, because I'm like, Louise, stop.
Like,
it's not real. They're not even talking.
Like, Liv on her HOH, that was one of the last group chats or individuals she called, was the Cajun Angels, which is Caro, Liv, Michael. Like, that was one of the last calls she made in her run of discussing noms. Like, Michael's one of the last people to know what she was thinking, which just should show you. I mean, obviously Louise doesn't know this, but like,
yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. Louise, like, from Louise's perspective, that's still literally everybody else who was on your season has a chat and they didn't tell you about it. Like, that, I get why Louise is upset. Like, don't spread it, but like, the upset feeling is so valid. Like,
I will say though, like,
use it against them with somebody else's HOH, not when Liv is the HOH and can easily hear that she's throwing you under the bus.
But you know who's taking the fall for this right now? Victoria. Caro and Liv were just on a call saying Victoria is the one spreading this. Now, I feel like, first of all, everyone needs to put a little more respect on social players' names, because we are seeing right now the strongest people in this house, Jabbar, Caro, Louise, are three major social players, and they are controlling every narrative in this house. Even though Luis is spreading it, the way she's spreading it, her calls are so long with people. They talk about food, they talk about this and that and life and this, and she sprinkles in, oh, by the way, this thing happened, but like, I don't think it's a big deal, but just so you know, Michael's a little leaky. Oh, and this thing happened. Like, by the time you end a call with Luis, you remember
the details. You forget the details.
So then the next person that you go, you're just like, oh, this thing, and it's not coming back on Luis. I actually haven't heard one person mention that Luis is the one that told them.
So, to back up a moment, I remember it was so funny listening to Rizzo and Liv on call last night, and Rizzo confronts Liv about the 16 chat and was like, just so you know, I heard that you and Caro and Michael are in a chat together, and I don't care, like, it's fine, like, I understand why it was made. And Liv was like, oh, really? And he's like, yeah, Victoria told me about it.
So funny.
Victoria, who people are like, we don't talk to her, like, she's not as passionate as everyone else. And
you know what, though, to be fair, like, if we're going to poo-poo on Louise for it, you kind of have to poo-poo on Victoria for it too. If Victoria is doing it, she is spreading it around just as much. I mean, not as much as Louise, but like she is spreading it around. And if you're spreading it around to where anyone can say, "Hey, I heard this thing involving you from her," like that's not great.
Mm-hmm.
It also stems from Victoria's. I mean, we talked about it last tea. I think Victoria also just has bad reads in the sense of who she trusts. She's putting a lot of trust in people like Megs and Jabbar and Rizzo, who just do not see her on that same level. Sadly, she loses one of the only people in the game that actually saw her eye to eye, which was Madison. But like everyone else, she's putting in a lot of work and a lot of faith and a lot of trust into to be a good ally. They're just not. They're paying her dust backwards. So it's unfortunate for Victoria because she's obviously trying to appeal to be a good ally to these people who don't want it from her. So like they're willing to leak it because they just don't care about the relationship with her, which is unfortunate, but that's just kind of how the cookie crumbles sometimes is no one's with you. She's kind of like Christian for me. Like just, she doesn't really, other than Louise, she doesn't have anyone that's really willing to fight for her. And that's unfortunate, but that's just kind of life sometimes. So, let's finish off this vote. The vote's pretty easy. I mean, Michael had a day and some change to campaign longer than Madison, who's at a soccer game with limited cell service. Madison, who's completely blindsided by this nomination because she was told she was safe because she was in the bubbly house. It doesn't help that most people were probably already going to save Michael versus Liv, so people were already in the headspace of saving Michael. So then being up against Madison, it doesn't really change the mindset. It's like, oh, well, I was already going to save Michael. I don't really have a relationship with Madison, so this is just easy. Madison, just her schedule didn't align with certain people. Like she only had one call with most of the cast. Sometimes that call took multiple instances to get there. Certain people felt ghosted by her. It just was a recipe for disaster for her. She only had 3 people in her corner. Victoria, Preston, and Louise were the only people in her corner. Preston and Victoria, because they have better relationships. But like, if Preston and Victoria are your only 2 biggest supporters, that's not very good because they don't really have a good social standing with the house. And Louise is just saying she wants a 16 person to leave, but it doesn't have to be right now. But that's really the only support she gets. Everyone else, I mean, she does her best. She creates this fake list of people who might be saving her, which sends the house into a little bit of a spiral for a minute. She very much appeals to the ethos of players like Erica and Megan who are feeling for her because they can resonate with the fact of feeling like, oh, I was safe and now I'm on the block and now I feel like I'm going, like they can resonate with that feeling. So she puts up a good fight. Had she put up this level of activity and level of fight for the first 7-8 days of the game, Madison would be in a way different position. But ultimately, she waited until she was in danger to put this level of effort in, which is the issue. And Michael just has too many bonds with people. That's just the end of the day. Like, she just didn't have the foundation to work with. And she's up against someone like Michael that it's really hard to send him home against most of this cast, honestly. Like, had she been up against someone like Christian or Victoria, she would have had more of a fighting chance, but not against Michael. Like, it just wasn't going to happen. She only receives 2 votes to stay, one from Preston, which he told everyone in the house he was going to save her, and then Jabbar, who was drunk last night and was being ridiculous. Being absolutely ridiculous. Love him to death.
Queen of voting in the minority.
I'm very worried for jury management this season as well, because I know some of these people haven't been on the Big Brother jury before, but the way Trey treated Madison before she left was so bad.
Sorry, okay, we have to talk about that. That was so fucking funny to me. I'm sorry. That poster was next to me in the kitchen, and I literally bust out laughing.
It's funny, but like, if you imagine if you were about to become a juror, like,
oh yeah. Like, that's but I cackled. Madison was like, "Hey Trey, like, what are you thinking?" The thumbs up. Madison was like, "Hey Trey, what are you thinking?" And he goes, "Oh, well, I'm just filming your goodbye message right now." Madison's like, "Wait, what? Huh? No, don't do that."
I died laughing, like, and I was already high as fuck reading that.
I missed that.
Oh, I was deceased. Go back and read it because it was incredible. But incredible.
That's one of those things where I'm looking at my phone and like laughing so hard, and my friends are like, "What?" I'm like, "You'll never get it." You'll never get it.
No, it is so funny, but like, oh my god!
Oh my god! And this is the GIF that he sent. Hey, girl, hey.
Madison says, "Hey," following up. He sends the "Hey, girl, hey," in the like he's rolling back his airplane chair. Madison, please, crying face. Trey, devastated, but filming your goodbye message right now. Madison, bruh, don't do that. Trey just responds back with I. Like, I was cackling because I was like, this is just someone who clearly is not taking this seriously at all, which is just funny because like Erica's on call consoling Madison. Megan is like sending 150 messages consoling her too. Like, you 2 different, completely different approaches to handling. Victoria's just ghosting her. Madison sent like 40 messages in a row to Victoria, tagged her like 8 times.
Victoria was torn up. Like, what do I say to Matt? Like, on call, like, what do I say?
And the precedent for the goodbye messages from the evicted players, I would want to make sure that they feel very good about me on their way out.
Madison on her way out. Let's read her.
We are 2 for 2 now on evicted players sending scathing Yelp reviews.
And if there's anything that BBH does, it's set a precedent, which now I feel every single other player is going to do that as they go out.
They are. Why wouldn't they?
Here's
somebody said today, I can't remember who it was, but somebody said today that they were speculating about, it may have been Lamont. It was like they were speculating that like a twist would be that evicted house guests would battle each other and duel like they did in the first round and continue through pre-jury, and there would be a battle back. So like, if you think that's the case, not the Lamont.
Everyone thinks that.
Yeah.
No one is doing anything nice about it to these people getting voted out.
Yeah, I need to post those 3 emojis, the Braun, Bubbly, and Brain emoji tonight, just to screw with them a little bit. But
they're gonna spiral.
I think we need to like scramble them.
Ooh, yes.
Like, literally reassign maybe like keep a few people the same, but like
you'll send them into
the content. Go with me here. The content.
These people will spiral.
These spirals and the DRs. Oh my god, the VL would be living for days.
As a VL member, I agree.
Thank you.
Here is Madison's goodbye scathing message. I tried. Everything I said was real and true. Thanks for the people that were honest to me and kind. Victoria and Megs are very much not cool for after seeing my truest open self, leaving me out to die to save face or last a little longer. Very disappointed, and everyone should just be weary. Christian also reminds me of a weasel. Funny. Next time, Next time, give the shy gals a chance. Yes, thank you. Enjoy the rest of the game.
Well,
I'm sorry. Just the Christian reminds me of a weasel. I just thought it was so funny.
It was. I did not expect like everything else. Like I was expecting, but Christian being a weasel was like
It's just so out of pocket.
I was like, I had to pause and be like, "What the hell?"
And also nothing else said about that. It's just like Kristen reminds me of a weasel.
Yeah, exactly.
Kristen reminds me of a weasel. Moving on.
Christian's embracing it though. He signed something in his diary room. Love your favorite weasel. So
Yeah.
Hey, did anyone check on him?
he's fine.
Yeah, he's doing okay.
You know what? This is what he gets for the 41,000 score in the math path. This is what he gets.
Yeah.
41,580 to be exact.
Oh gosh.
I think we talk about bad parts of 15 a lot, but I think one of the things I loved about 15 was that everyone voted however they wanted, it seems, for the most. Like, the votes were always like pretty close relatively, and most people were pretty upfront, like, I'm gonna vote this way, and then people obviously threw whatever hinky votes.
Hell, I purposely voted the minority.
I voted the minority so much, and I'm like, for people like Victoria or Christian or these people that where people are like, we don't really know where they stand, we don't talk much game, I think it would be more beneficial for them to be like, I really want to save Madison.
I want to see Big Brother blindsides. We never see really Big Brother blindsides because everyone is just so like, we have to fall in line, we have to blend in the majority.
And you don't have to, because there's only 2 people up there. We talk about this all the time, but like, Victoria would be seen as a better ally if people knew that when you're on the block, she's going to say to people, I'm voting to save this person because we're working together and it's nothing against this other person. And I know I'll be in the minority, but whatever, I'm just letting you know. Like, you know, just move on, being the minority. Preston's not getting in trouble for voting for.
No
one cares.
And the way he approached it was so good because even if it wasn't Madison, he just said, like, I had a connection with her where I wasn't going to do that to her. I'm happy Michael stayed. Like, that is exactly how you handle it. If Michael, and the thing is like, if Michael won and put Preston on the block for that, that's pretty shitty. Like, when he staying, like, he wouldn't, you know, but like, it's just, if you want to vote, just vote the way you want to vote.
This is the major exception, I will say. Bridget was brutally blindsided.
That was, unnecessary.
16?
Yeah.
I was typing, was she blindsided?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Is it me? Am I the drama?
No. Was the vote a blindside or just the back door?
Olivia and Jeff were left out, but like.
Yeah.
Oh, it's all coming back to me now.
Yeah.
It's all coming back. It's all coming back to me now. Sorry, Bridget. I'm not saying. Anywho, keep going.
Anyway. But let's move on to day 8 in the house, where we had our Deal or No Deal, HOH, where we had a tie between Louise and Liv at $750,000. Ultimately, Liv wins the tiebreaker. Louise did not throw it, so she has told us. She just is not great at answering the question. For lack of a better term.
The maths were not mathing.
The maths were bad. He was given Bowie Jane level of bad math. But the opposite. She got it big time. Like, girl, like 300 million for 3 people, not a single person hit 100 million.
Was it confirmed though that she originally wrote down 30 and then added another 0? Because as I was watching it, it looked like she wrote something down and then thought about it and
she wrote a brand new number. She wrote a brand new number is what she told us afterwards. Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know what the original number was, but she turned it over and wrote a brand new number.
Okay.
Regardless, the number don't make any fucking sense. The number made no fucking sense from a single standpoint. But you know what? Go off. No clue what Louise would have done. Louise had an emergency today, so she was not really in pocket. I think Sarah would have been in some danger underneath Louise, but I'm not really sure who else. So, I mean, it might have been like a subconscious throw. Like, she didn't really want to throw, but like, if it doesn't come to me, whatever, because she just was really out of pocket today and exhausted and tired. So who's to know? But a great outcome for Sarah, as we'll get to it. Liv is your HOH, and the beauty of competing the night before, which I guess Dan will fight back against, sometimes when you compete super early and you really know that you really kind of munched, you can start talking to your top allies about what you're thinking. Obviously doesn't go well for Dan in BBH20 after he scores this exact same score, goes around saying he would nominate Blake and Ashton, and then 2 people score 1 million. So, pros and cons here. But in Liv's benefit, she gets on call with Rizzo, who I easily think at least Rizzo sees Liv as his final 2. Unsure where Liv sees him in terms of that. I think she's got a bunch of options for her top trusted ally, but Rizzo's definitely up there. But they were discussing Liv's easy road versus hard road. Her easy road is considering people like Christian and Nikki and Victoria, where the hard road is definitely going after Megs. And Rizzo is very much trying to be a good ally and being like, if you're unwilling to put up someone like Jabbar or Megan or someone else like that caliber up against Megs, don't do it. Like, just don't do it. Like, it is not worth it. And Liv is really having this like head versus heart battle of like, and I don't know why she feels this way, that she feels like she didn't take big shots in 16. And that's why she lost. And I just humbly disagree with that. She didn't lose because she didn't take big shots. Like, she lost because her social game wasn't strong, and jurors really valued that season. We have other juries that value the strategic game way more. But that season wanted the social game. She didn't have it. She fumbled the final jury questioning, and that's why she lost. But she's feeling this need to really like rewrite this idea that she won't take a big shot, and she's just really having a hard time saying that she would use her HOH to take out someone like a Christian or a Nikki or a Victoria. And Rizzo's really trying to be like, hey, like, if they're not working with you and you think that they're working with Megs, that's still a good boot.
Yeah.
Like, that works towards your goal of moving forward in the game, and you have to forget about this big movitis, which I think a lot of orgs have. Like, small moves are great too. Like, when you play chess, you can't just go take the fucking queen and the king off the board immediately. You have to set up to get that. And she's trying to take out the queen immediately. And I'm like, no, you gotta set it up so you can take the queen. It's too early. And she knows it's too early. But like, she really wants to.
I get the sentiment from her because she feels like the game is happening around her, and she feels like there's so much happening that she's not in control of. But I think the problem for Liv is it's like the big movitis is lacking a lot of intentionality, which also is something that like jurors they're not going to respect. Like, if you have a purpose in your HOH and the big move you want to make, which I think she was getting there with Megs, but it's just like, thank God for Rizzo being there last night and really trying to talk her off of that. And someone that is going to be level-headed without an ulterior motive, I think, is the bigger thing. Because like, going to Caro is not the right person to talk to about this. Going to Jabbar is not the right person to talk to about this. I think the issue is then it's like she then goes for second and third opinions and starts talking to more people.
Yeah.
And that's, I just don't see a world now where this doesn't get back to Megs.
Yeah, she got too excited.
And again, this is,
It's already back to Megs.
I said this earlier, but like, these people become HOH and they start telling their plans to everyone. What happened to keeping that to like your inner circle? Like, I tried to jump on as many Liv calls today after she won, and every single one was like, yeah, I think my initial noms are going to be Nikki and Victoria, and possible renoms, Christian, Meg. And I'm like,
yeah, she's
where is the decorum? Where is the home training?
Yeah, the keys to the castle have been given out to anyone.
Why is Kadri asking about decorum?
None of them have it. None of them have it, and like, thank God they don't, because like, it's providing.
Yeah, it's providing content, but yeah, I just don't. Yeah, I don't know if if it's a consequence of Caro telling her she would have been evicted, where she feels the need to include more people. I'm not really sure. I mean, she's also on this mission. So, I guess let's get to it and then we can talk about the mission. So, I mean, she wins the HOH. She gives Louise safety at the tiebreaker. And Liv knows she's got her short list of people who she knew didn't give her a shot last round because these people were dumbasses and told people that they wouldn't save Liv last round. So she fully knows. So she's between this hard road of Megs, Megan, Jabbar, or the easy road of Nikki, Christian, and Victoria. She calls Caro first, who's of no fucking assistance. Shocker. Because Caro's juggling almost every relationship in the game at this point because she's too connected and she refuses to just be hands off for a moment. So she's of no help. She basically is like, oh, well, I mean, if you want to do Megs, I do this, but like, I don't think going the easy road, that's fine too. But she very much clearly is trying to not get Megs up on the block. She pushed Sarah, which has got no traction. But basically, Liv is feeling the big move-itis, and she's definitely trying to talk her off of it. And she provides other names to go up against Megs if she really wants to. And Liv is just like not feeling those names. She's like suggested Erica, and Liv doesn't want to do Erica. And I think this is like the beginning of Liv realizing like it's just not worth it. She calls Preston, who also is shockingly of no help because that's Preston's entire BBH18 game of like, whoever you want.
Okay, two problems here. First, if Caro's not giving you any of the names you want to hear, that again should be a red flag. That the people that you think can send Megs out are the people that Caro's not willing to let you put up. Second, you were just on a call last night, Liv, where Preston is the person that Rizzo's like, Preston's leaking any shit I said about Megs. So like, why are you now? It's not true. Like, it is not true. Preston didn't leak shit. But Rizzo thinks very truthfully to his core that Preston leaked to Megs that Rizzo was after her. So then you're going to tell Preston that you're considering going after Megs.
Yeah. I don't know.
I want to say something about big move-itis because I feel like if this is a chess game, this is a board of queens, kings, knights, right? And you have what, 3 pawns maybe in this game that are really like maybe 4 if you're Sarah, Sarah, Victoria, Christian.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting someone. Sarah, Victoria.
I was gonna say all of the pre-jurors, but never mind.
Damn.
Well, however you want to look at it, there are a lot less pawns in this game than there are queens, kings, knights.
Bigger
So like,
pieces. Yeah.
Why not just make a bigger there? This is one of the last rounds of having pawns if you're getting rid of these people that you consider smaller moves, and people are against you anyway. So like, I don't even know if putting up Megs and Megan together should even be considered a big move at this point in the game, because
that's the thing though. Like, all these people are being scared. Like, that's the thing. Like, no one's discussing it, which is why it's being deemed a big move, because every other person is like, oh yeah, I do Sarah, I do Christian, I do Victoria. Like, no one's discussing doing these big things. Sure, there's like one-offs of like some people, like Jabbar would nominate Preston, who's a little bit of a bigger name, just because they don't have a good relationship. But like, no one is discussing nominating 2 people to send out a bigger name. Everyone's just still in this like, oh, just who am I not bonding with? Who am I not vibing with? Like Liv is the first person in this game to finally open up that discussion, and it's being received poorly. They're like, oh, it's round 3. You want to go that way already? Like, oh shit. Okay.
But then Liv, why didn't anyone say that about you going on the block? Like, if that's what you're looking at, you've already been on the block. If this was anyone else in the house, I would be like, yes, whatever. But someone who just got off the block.
Yeah.
And why didn't anyone say it about you? Was that not a big deal?
I mean, obviously, Meg's approached it from the point of view of like, I'm not trying to get rid of Liv because she's a big threat. I'm trying to get rid of Liv because I don't bond with her. So, and that's the thing. It's about the approach. Everyone's been making it about who am I bonding with, who am I working with, who do I like, versus they're a threat. And Liv came about it as they're a threat. They need to go versus I'm not really vibing with Megs. And I think maybe that was the approach error here because at least the people she called, which again, maybe weren't the best people to call. Like, no offense to Preston. I'm not calling Preston for a divisive decision anytime soon because he just didn't give any input. He just was like, oh, you could do A or you could do B, whatever you want. Like, it doesn't help. You need people who are going to tell you the truth. You need people to tell. She hops on call with Erica, and thank God, fucking, she made up with Erica. Erica and Liv, after Liv won the veto, they had a good call where they kind of cleared the air. They have preseason, not beef, but they played a game in the past together. I don't know what game it was, and Erica. There we go. And Erica screwed over Liv, so they have that kind of apprehension and. Liv felt like Erica was kind of not really being forthcoming with her, which was true because Erica would have saved Michael. But they definitely cleared the air and want to move forward together. And Erica, thank God, someone told her the fucking truth. Erica's like, oh, you want to nominate Megs? Well, I can't really promise you a vote there because I really like Megs and she's not coming after me. And very much tries to suggest, hey, you don't really like Nikki and Christian. I don't think the House are going to hate those noms. So, like, if you're trying to reintegrate, those are good nominations. Like, if you want to do Megs, go for it. I'll support you. But, like, I can't really promise you my vote there. I'm just going to be honest. Like, thank God someone's, like, telling her an ounce of truth here.
I'm really surprised, too, that, you know, after the long call she had with Rizzo last night, and he tells her that she is his number one, she says, you know, I really, really trust you. There wasn't really a lot of attempt at communication with him revisiting. And I don't know if it was because she's like, well, I already know Rizzo's stance on Megs and he's just going to shoot it down.
Yeah.
But even if her objective was, okay, I'm going to go after people that I think are closer to Megs, Rizzo and Liv spoke a lot about both Nikki and Victoria just as people, not about noms. And so I feel like he probably could have spoken to how close he thought they were with Megs or anything like that. And I feel like she kind of squandered the value of that relationship in making this nom set.
He also was at work. So, I mean, he was at work today, but, like, he definitely was one of the last people to be informed as well as to what was going on. But that's the thing. I mean, Liv, I just think, put the wrong attention early with Caro, Preston, Erica, and then she calls No Scrubs, which is her alliance with Caro and Trey, which you talked about red flags with Caro. My biggest red flag is on this call. They're discussing, at this point, Liv has kind of put two and two together that she needs to go easy road to start. She's kind of realizing they started counting the votes that could evict Megs, and it wasn't very good. They're like, at best, we might be able to get this to a 7-6 vote to evict her. That's not necessarily a risk I'm willing to take if you're going to nominate her against someone like Nikki or Victoria or Christian. Like, and I think Liv knows she either needs to go easy or she needs to just say, fuck it. I don't care. I'm going to put two people big on the block, see what shakes out, and hope it shakes out in my favor. She seems to be backing off of that. So she's trying to discuss, like, what combination of Christian, Nikki, Victoria maybe gets me a Megs renom where Megs could go home. Just discussing all of this with Trey and Caro, discussing that Christian's a big comp threat, but he might be the weakest of the three options, which kind of actually spares him from the block. We kind of talked about that earlier already here, that Christian is being seen as kind of a lamb to slaughter, as like the second he's on the block, it's over, which I agree. I think he can give certain people a run for their money on the block. It's not anyone strong in the house, but like he's not dead in the water like they think they are. For whatever reason, they think Victoria's connected and like could even stay up against Megs. I don't know what fucking drugs these people are.
Those drugs.
Whatever drugs those are some real fucking powerful good drugs. Like, get that shit nationwide, because I have no fucking idea why they think Victoria has a chance to stay. And they even discussed that Nikki might even stay over Megs. I'm like, babes, in what universe?
They've been sipping Victoria's coffee at midnight.
Like, Victoria's putting crack cocaine in her coffee at midnight. Like,
are they just saying that? Are they just saying
on this call? They literally were like, Liv was like, I think Victoria could, if she had an extra day to campaign over Megs, she could stay over Megs. And also about Nikki, I'm like, y'all are overestimating Nikki and Victoria's spot in this game. They are both at the bottom.
Mainly because they are overestimating their spot, or not Nikki, but Victoria is grossly overestimating her spot in this game.
Yeah,
no, she's not. She's constantly afraid she's going on the block. What are you talking about?
I think the only thing that she kind of overestimates is maybe how well she's integrating herself with other people, in the sense of like she's making the efforts and the connections, but she's not. There's a difference between the efforts and bonding, and I think that that's something that maybe she's not seeing. But she's not. I mean, I think she's aware that she's in danger at all times.
Yeah,
but why? In what world do you think like I can't put up Megs and Megs will stay to she wouldn't stay in a renom situation though? Like.
Yeah, they're playing this weird game of that they think that if they give Victoria and Nikki an extra day to campaign, that Megs will be caught off guard. Or I'm like, people, Megs is too connected. She's got the votes locked up. It don't matter how much time you give Victoria or Nikki to campaign for themselves. People, like half this house would nominate both of them, at least one of them. Like, it doesn't matter. You could give them a week to campaign over Megs and it's not working. And maybe that's just Liv trying to be optimistic about what's happening, but like it was rough sitting on that call, being like, there is no chance in hell, and you can see it so bad that Liv just wants to get rid of Megs, but is unwilling to put someone like Jabbar or Megan up next to her.
It needed to be Megan, I think.
I think Jabbar's even better. I think Megan still loses. I think Jabbar's the person.
I think I would take the risk on Megan just for the sense of I think Jabbar's too powerful. Like I think
exactly why it should be him. If your goal is
probably why you just shouldn't be doing this in the first place. But
exactly why you shouldn't even be talking about it. Like if you're unwilling to do it, don't even talk about it. But that's the problem. She let the toothpaste out of the tube. You can't put it back in.
Yeah.
And
this is all about scaffolding your game and doing something incrementally that's going to make sense. And if you do the thing like if she were to put up Megs out and say she was going to get Megs out, like I would have had no faith in Liv making it to the jury, and I still don't know that I have a lot of faith in it right now. But I think it comes back to what is that name for like the simplest answer is usually the correct answer.
Occam's razor.
Occam's razor, yes. And I feel like that's a really good example here of like right now, if you don't have a lot of intention or if you don't have a lot of, agenda, sometimes the simplest thing, like it may not always be the flashiest move, but if you actually see these people as a barrier to you getting them out can still be good because any negative energy gone is good.
Mm-hmm.
She's still serious about a potential Megs renom.
Yes.
Megs has already heard that she is a renom option.
So bad.
Because Liv said in her DR, she said, okay, only people I told that I was considering Megs are Preston, Caro, Trey, Lamont, Jabbar, I think. Which she forgot to list Erica.
Yeah, like
that's half the cast.
Because here's what's happened here. She finishes this call with no scrubs, and she agrees. All right, we'll do Victoria and Nikki. Nikki is my prioritization of target. If worse comes to worse, I'll get Nikki out. Great, slay. And Victoria's going up because Victoria's super connected and more so than Christian, and definitely will stay against Nikki. Which I don't know about that. Like Nikki v. Victoria is going to be a very close one. It's going to be close. And ultimately, Liv deep down wants the final noms to be Nikki and Megs because she thinks Nikki is super tight with Megs, which again, bad read. Victoria, Christian, and Nikki are in danger because they didn't give Liv a chance, and she thinks that they're tight with Megs. None of them are tight with Megs. Like the people that are tight with Megs are the people that Liv has put too much trust in today to tell them Megs might be my renom. Again, bad read. It's not Liv's fault. Like it's just the wrong read. And ultimately, Liv's plan is to delay the Megs renom to give both Victoria and Nikki a chance to campaign and save themselves over Megs, but also to gauge is a Meg's boot even possible? And why I have such an issue with this is that, like, you've already been told by multiple people, Caro, Erica, and Rizzo, if you're going to nominate Meg, she needs to be up against someone big. And the fact that you're even considering putting them up against Nikki or Victoria, one, is ridiculous. You're cutting corners. You're trying to get something you want by cutting corners. It's never going to work out that way.
Mhm.
And like you already ran through the numbers with Caro and Trey on call, being like, who would evict Megs? Period. Who even would consider it? And they couldn't find 7 people.
Yeah. Oh,
And
this is so good. This is so good. She heard one person confirm what she wants, and that like made the flame come
Yes.
back to life.
But the worst thing is she literally asked Caro and Trey to their face on this call, would you evict Megs? You could cut the silence with a knife. They were silent. That should tell you immediately you don't have them. You don't, and Erica's already told you that she doesn't have, like, she won't back it either. Like, you have the information right in front of you that you don't have.
Well, and
you don't have it.
The thing that some of those people did, in Caro and Rizzo especially, was they not only said you have to put her next to someone big, but this is the person you'd have to put her next to that I would evict Megs over the other person.
And I get it. If you don't want to sacrifice your relationship with Jabbar or Megan, you think it's too soon, then you have to abandon the plan completely. Like, I understand you want Megs to go, but if you're unwilling to do the thing that needs to be done, you have to abandon it and go to Megs and be like, hey, girl, thanks for that deal we made last round. It's super good. We're good. We're so good. Like, but instead, Megs now knows you're going to go back on the deal. You're not going to get her out. Lose. Like, I love Liv, but damn, this was just a huge misstep. And I had all the information. All the signs pointed towards either go big or don't do it at all. And she said, I'm going to be DW. This sign, I can't read this sign. I'm going to keep going.
I empathize a lot because she's riding the high still of winning the veto and, you know, coming off of what was almost certain death for her. She took it into her own hands. There is something about deal or no deal that empowers people to be risk takers and like go balls to the wall, because it's like, you know, I could have had nothing, but I got $750,000, and so I'm on a roll and I'm winning. And I don't know what it is about this that just like makes people think that they can do wild shit. But
I mean, luck has been on her side because she wanted Preston to stay. Preston wins the duel. She's on the block, wins the veto with her back against the wall, now wins this. She got Michael to stay left. Like, everything's been going well for Liv despite not being in power. Like, I get the luck being on her side, but damn, yeah, I don't know what the fuck has empowered her to be slightly less strategic and methodical the way that we saw her in 16. Like, she would never have acted this way in 16. Never.
You know, we said as soon as the tiebreaker happened, we were like, this is really exciting. But the more I'm seeing what's happening and the way that she's kind of fresh off of her own emotion, which I'm glad that she's very in tune with it. But I think seeing how she's now not able to really like process maybe what she should be doing or what she wants to do, and she's got that kind of confuddled around, I think it would have been better for her if Louise had won. And I wouldn't have said that 12 hours ago. I've been like, this is great, she's on a roll. But I just think that, you know, like I came off of listening to that long call last night thinking Liv is going to do the right thing for her game. And then as soon as she got crowned HOH, she's like, reset. It's like the Men in Black just flashed the light in her face. She forgot all of the last 24 hours and she's ready to come for blood again.
And the truth is, Jabbar would have nominated Liv.
Yes. Yep.
So it's like, that's what I mean about this big move-itis. This is not big move-itis. This is a cast of great players. Mm-hmm. So put yourself, everyone's on the same level. Maybe some people are not on the same level. You can count them as pre-jurors, whatever. There are so many social players in this game, strong social players. The ties Megs has in this game should show you. Caro, Jabbar, you know, like taking out a comp threat is great, but like these social players have a grip on this game.
Yeah, and I also don't hate the idea of just putting Megs up, but I think it was the fact that she was saying it in tandem with wanting to take a big shot. Like, if she had just come off of this saying, I'm nominating Megs because she nominated me.
Yes.
Period. I don't think that offends anyone. Even if Meg stays, it's like, that's fine, but I'm doing this because she nominated me and I'm within my right to do that, and no one's going to be pissed. But the fact that she comes off saying, like, I want to take this big shot, I want to make a big move, my target is Megs, that is...
You're giving Megs even more power than she already has.
Yes, I agree.
To sit in Nikki's face and say, I just couldn't think of anyone else I could nominate.
Yeah.
Like, girl, you were just on the block.
Yeah, there's a lot of missteps. I think Liv can still bounce back from this. I think she needs some wins to head in her favor, her allies' favor. She's not dead in the water. She's definitely, I think she's lost Megs forever. And that's okay. But Jabbar was on call earlier saying, as long as Liv doesn't nominate me, I will give her a week of grace. So she, at least by nominating Jabbar, has gotten a week of grace from him. So, I mean, there are some positive here. Ultimately, I just hope that people who consider Liv good allies, like Caro or Sarah, who she now has an alliance with, and Erica and Trey, and like, are honest with her. Because other than Erica, they weren't really honest with her in terms of when they brought up, would you evict Megs? Only Erica owned up to it. The rest of them sat there fucking quiet. If they were a real ally, they would have been like, no, I would not evict Megs in this current situation. So if you want me to evict Megs, you're going to have to give me a configuration I like. But instead, they sat back and are going to let her kind of undo herself a bit, which, again, that's Big Brother. Like, only one person wins, so let someone else ruin their own game. But, like, don't act like you're Liv's ally if she wins again. But the thing that I'm, like, not low on is Liv knows that she needs to win a lot this season. So take out someone like it's okay to lose someone like Christian or Nikki. Nikki runs that end game like no other. She can win those end game comps like no fuck. Like, taking out someone like this is still good for her. Like, it still gives you a higher equity as you get into those comps that you need to win with your back against the wall. Like, and Caro said that to her, and she still was like, I don't know, I still want Megs. Like, there's still value in losing someone like Christian or Nikki, but the like phrasing, the like how you're presenting it isn't, like, I don't know, something about it's just not resonating with Liv. Like, there were plenty of good options she could have done here, and she managed to kind of like sit on the fence, and all she got was a hurt ass at the end of the day instead of just picking a side and just moving on with it. So still think it's reboundable, but we'll see what happens. I mean, Nikki and Victoria are on the block. I don't know who leaves of those two.
So far, people have actively expressed that they would evict Nikki.
Victoria's really been trying tonight too.
I'm worried for Nikki in this scenario,
which is a bummer, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, but Jabbar couldn't care less about the two of them. Trey and Megan both said the second Victoria is a final nom, she's gone, despite them having this unspoken pre-jury alliance with her.
I think they say that, but I don't think that they're going to spend the social capital to push it, though. Like, I think it's, if they're like, hey, we're the deciding votes, we're going to send her on. Yeah. I don't think that they're going to. I don't see why you would spend your energy to in the pre-jury phase. There are certain fights you pick, and it's like you sometimes just vote the way you want, like what Tay said, and there are some times where you really push your agenda. And this is probably one of those votes where there are two people are on the block that you just say, no one should be pushing an agenda here. You just vote the way you want, and whatever happens, happens.
I think there's enough Victoria anti-set, like Megan and Trey would evict Victoria. Jabbar thinks Victoria's a snake, but doesn't trust Nikki either. I think Sarah wants to save Nikki. Lamont wants to save Nikki. I think there's people on both sides who would fight for both noms. So, like, I don't think this is a slam dunk like they think it is. I think Nikki, while not in a great spot, Nikki is not in a good spot. Yeah. Niki's not dead against this nomination.
The thing that's going to hurt Nikki is just Victoria is seemingly always available to call. And I think that she puts in the work when people are willing to call her. So I think that is something definitely working in her favor.
It also works against her because that's the thing. It works against her because people are like with Nikki. I have no relationship with Nikki because I don't call her. She's not around. I have no relationship with Victoria, but I call her multiple times and still have no relationship with Victoria. It's like, which is worse? I don't know. Like, people have had, like, Megan has had multiple calls with Victoria, still wants her out, still wants her gone. Like, at what point, like, I don't know which is worse. Like, do you want a person who's around but you're not vibing, you're never going to work with, or do you want someone who's less around that you're still not going to work with? I don't fucking know. Like,
I want someone who's around.
It helps and hurts. It helps and hurts.
I think AJ said this at one of his 14 confessionals. Things I know a lot about. But he was talking about a call with Courtney, and he was like, I didn't think the call went really well, but I think she thought it went well. And that's more important to me, that like she feels good. So like Caro and Nikki had a call where Nikki was like, of everyone in the game, I've really talked to you kind of the most. I haven't been on that many calls. Like, you have to readjust your thinking of like what my relationship is with this person depending on the other person's like view of the game, because Nikki is in, Amsterdam. Like, she's not able to get on as many calls as constantly as people in the same time zone and say this. So you have to be like, I've been on 3 calls with her. She probably feels good about me. I want someone in the game who feels good about me. And that's kind of the same way you have to think about Victoria too. Like, Megs calls Victoria all the time and is still like meh about her. But like, Megs, other people are saying that they don't talk to Victoria at all. You think that means that Victoria probably feels a little better about you, Rizzo. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
If I had $1 for every time Victoria came back to her project saying that was a great call, and then the other person come back to their project, no, it was just fine, I would be rich. I would be filthy fucking rich. And that's the thing. These people aren't adjusting themselves. Like, Victoria has a really good call and they just don't care. So like, I didn't think it was good. But if Victoria thought it was good, it means Victoria likes you and she'll work with you. But that's the thing. These people have just, like, at this point, I don't know if I see winner equity at all for people like Nikki and Christian and Victoria, because I think the bus has left them all and they have no intention on picking them back up at this point. Like, Sarah's the only person.
If I were a voter in this scenario, though, there's been a lot of discussion in the past about like not voting as Victoria because she'd be really loyal and she would remember if you kept her. And I do think that that's true. I think the difference in a Nikki is that Nikki doesn't always necessarily repay good faith. So if I were looking at her past playing BBH, I would say me voting to keep her doesn't necessarily mean she will save me if she wins power, and that would scare me.
So I don't know.
I think the hard part with things like that is because, like, if Nikki doesn't necessarily repay the favor, if I'm on the receiving end of that and she votes to evict me, I'm pissed. But at the same time, it's like, this isn't Survivor where anybody is on the table. You only have 2 options. So if I'm voting to save you, if I'm voting to save you this round, Nikki, it's because the other person you're against isn't as good for my game as you are. But if you vote to evict me, that's because the other person is better for your game. So, like,
I was meaning more in terms of something more active. Like, I think back to in 17, like, Hannah was really good to Nikki, and then Nikki backdoors Hannah on live night for like literally no reason. So I'd be more worried about something like that. Like, and Nikki even wins power and can put you up. Like, she's not going to think about who's saved her or who's been good to her. She thinks a little too objectively, like who's good for the game versus like who's been good to me. I'd be too afraid.
Which is why Nikki's a great ally for Liv, and it's unfortunate that those two haven't come together, because Nikki would have told Liv, objectively, you should make a big move, so you should just put up Megs and someone big like Jabbar and say, call it a day. You don't owe anyone shit. Let's just move on and let's call it a day.
And Liv was one of the few people that, or Nikki was one of the few people that Liv for sure had her vote to stay against Michael.
If she was voting for what she wanted. Nikki was just going to vote with the majority. Like she would have voted to save Liv if she cared to vote the way she wanted, which this cast seemingly doesn't care.
I mean, Nikki had great points when she was being told that she was being nominated. She was like, I'm not in a good place in this house. She said that to her. Like, I've already been on the block. I feel like I'm on the outs. Like, why would you nominate me? And Liv was just like, I feel like there were people who didn't even give me a chance last round. And you said you wouldn't use the veto on me, which is fair. And Nikki was like, I don't think anyone would have used the veto. And I didn't even know who you were up against at that point when I said that. And it's just like,
I think my thing with that call was that Liv had said that she was putting up people who didn't make her feel safe or whatever. Babe, you were on the block. With that logic, you put up the person who put your ass there in the first place. I was so confused, and I literally had to leave the call because it pissed me off so much.
It was infuriating.
Yeah, that's again had two. There were two paths to take, and somehow Liv paved a third one for herself. So, and ended on the second one. She paved a way, but still ended on the second path, which she should have just taken from the beginning if that was what she was going to do. But that's what happens. But that's where we're at. So we've got veto tomorrow. Who the hell's texting Kadri? Someone stop texting Kadri.
Who's laughing right now?
It's Lee.
Just look at who's laughing. You know exactly who it is.
All I did was text and say, just making your text tone go off.
Well, we've got Nikki and Victoria as our initial noms. Renom TBD because Liv has some slight hope that Megs could go. So Megs might be the renom, but hopefully her truest allies will come in and tell her, girl, don't fucking do it. If there's a need for a renom.
And when veto doesn't even get used.
Hopefully not, for her sake.
Here's the thing, and I don't know if it's been said yet, but like I don't hate a Meg's initial nomination or Meg's renom. What I do hate is how Liv has gone about it.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to fuck her over.
Yeah.
Like, I think the move is an incredible move. The process to get there has just been atrocious, baby girl.
Yeah.
I agree, Kadri.
If you're gonna go back on that deal, go back on that deal big time. Like, go for it. Like, shoot Megs in the front. Be like, you know what? I made a deal with you last round, and I'm going back on it.
And Megs couldn't even complain about it. Like Megs would have to sit there and be like, "You're right," you know.
Like,
yeah, but I think now it's like also you're implicating so many other people in this plan. That's either like, is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? You've told over half the cast that it's going to happen. So at this point, you come out of this and you're like, but I didn't do it. But it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yep.
It'll either be her or Christian as the renom, depending on kind of what information Liv is able to acquire if the veto is used. It's really funny because our veto draw is Louise, Sarah, and Erica, and both Megs and Liv think this is a great veto draw, which I love when both sides think this is a great veto draw. When this is a great veto draw for Megs. Erica and Sarah, if they win, are not using it, which Liv, for whatever reason, thinks. Maybe she thinks that the competitors are weak and thinks that it'll guarantee that Liv or the noms will win. I'm not really sure. But once the veto draw happened, Liv was like, this is amazing. This is a great veto draw. And I'm like, I
can see Louise using it.
On who?
Victoria.
Just to create drama.
I think the veto not being used is good for both Liv and Megs.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think if Louise wins and she plays and she uses the veto, she is setting herself up for even more like failure. Like that's not a good move for Louise.
I get using the veto on an ally, but if the ally is not going to give you longevity, I would never use it. That's why I was really hard.
What if Liv asks her to use it though? Like it sounds like Liv might want it to be used.
When I saw Luis was picked for veto, I was like, I could see Luis playing the veto on Victoria.
Yeah.
For
Luis
sake, she does
win anything. It does not matter what she does right now. I feel like she could talk herself right out of it.
Yeah, for Louisa's sake, I hope she doesn't, because it's like when Anwar used it on Veronica. It's like, is that who you want to be tethered with? You have to be careful when you use the veto, because you're going to be a tight duo with that person.
I just think, to Tay's point, I think Louise can get away with a lot more shit, though. Like, she can just tell you, like, an endearing, goofy story, and then...
But Louise is falling out of the power structure. She's falling out of it. And that's the thing. And if Megs was to be renominated, I don't think Megs is going to forget that. Like, even if Megs doesn't go home, like, you don't want to piss off the power. Like, if you're going to piss off the power structure, it better be for someone good. Love you, Victoria. You're not worth it. You're not worth pissing off the power structure. Like, if you're going to piss off Megs to save Victoria, who could probably stay against Nikki on her own volition, what's the point? What's the benefit? There's no pro.
Do you think, though, it's okay? Do you think it's a pro, though, if Liv is like, hey, Louise, like, I would actually be really okay if you used it.
And Louise should say, babes, Banks is not going home.
Yeah.
I have no need to use it. Like, I know what you want.
Regardless of whether the renom is Megs or Christian, though, like, Louise, even if Liv gives her implicit go ahead to use the veto, like, Louise still has to think, this is a move for my game. Like it's not just whether or not Liv is okay with the veto being used or Liv wants to make a renom or anything. It's also how using the veto reflects on Louise. And if she says, I'm going to stick my neck out for Victoria or Nikki or not use it, like, every single one of those things says a different statement to the house. And while Louise does love to say that she plays chaotically and loves chaos, like, I don't see her necessarily doing that.
I am kind of excited if this is a final nom set, though, because that means one of Nikki or Victoria are getting a golden key, and that is hilarious.
No, that's great, because we need a shake up in terms of, like, who are the perceived house. Like, as much as we've had a twist, like, we had the twist round one, we left, like, Frankie not in a great spot. We lost Frankie, wasn't a good spot. We had Megs taking a big shot initially, and then we lose Madison, house nom. I think if Liv had gone home, I would consider that a pretty big shot. I think Liv's a great player.
No, and did I forget that Liv was an initial nom?
And then round 3, we're having all this drama, but we might lose someone like Nikki or Victoria or Christian, house nom. Like, they need a shakeup in terms of these people needing to realize that, like, you can keep targeting the house nominations, but, like, they're in slim pickings at this point. After that, you have to start going elsewhere. So I'm hoping this golden key can shake some things up there, because right now, as much as we're getting all the drama, we're still ending with, like, I don't want to say piss poor results, but we're ending with, like, predictable results, which is like...
Oh, speaking of golden key, because I feel like we do have to roast Michael a little bit. I don't think that the language could have been any more clear, basically, that you hold the legacy key. And he's like, I think Preston might have it.
No, you were pretty clear that he kicked off this twist, and it was pretty evident to be watching that Michael should know that he has the legacy key.
He's like, but can you tell me I have the legacy key? No, we can't confirm that. Okay, and we're like, no, we can't confirm that, and he's still like, Preston might have it.
I keep wanting to, like, go to his DR and, like, bump the golden key, like, language thing, just to, like, hey, read this over again, please.
Yeah. Read it one more time.
Yeah, read it one more time.
Twice actually.
But also, I mean, if you think about it just for a hot ass second, Preston technically did not survive his eviction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The language
he won the battle back, sure. So he survived being evicted for, like, officially, but he did not survive his eviction.
Preston doesn't fit the language, and that's the reason why we didn't insert the golden key in round 1.
Because there would have been 3 people that survived it, for one.
And and I said a new twist would be unleashed after the houses merge, which also should be the indication that. And that's the thing, is I'm fearful because the golden key is very clear that if they use it, it's public knowledge. Horxia, truly. Anyone who knows about the golden keys will know who has used theirs, because it's public knowledge as to when the safety without power is used. So if Michael is under the perception that Preston has the legacy key, Michael will just use his, because Michael knows that if Preston holds it, doesn't use it, then his key is worthless at 13, so he might as well use his key before it becomes worthless, which is annoying because it's like, Michael, babes, like, as long as you hold on to it, you're the big recipient at final 13, barring you make it there. But yeah, a little frustrating there, but it's okay.
The thing is about the twist. Oh, sorry, go back.
I can't believe I'm about to say this, but maybe the best thing for Michael is to tell somebody that he has it, and then they can like set him straight. Is that what we need here? Because he's gonna say, I think Preston has it, to whoever he tells, and then they're gonna look at it and be like, no.
No.
Can he send the blurb to some people?
See,
say again.
Can he send the blurb to people?
Yeah, it's his advantage. He can do whatever the hell he wants with it.
Yeah,
we're not confirming shit.
This cast will probably be like, oh, I bet Preston has it. Like, depending who he tells. Yeah. And then he's gonna be like, yeah, Preston probably has it. Like, these people are gonna lie to this man's face.
Mm-hmm. I think
he shouldn't tell anyone.
The thing that's interesting too is the way that this is set up. Like, whenever someone else gets the golden key, Michael should absolutely approach that person, because there's no denying Michael has it. And so, like, say Victoria survives, she gets the golden key, Michael should absolutely approach her about it and be like, how do we want to keep this secret? The fact that Preston hasn't come to Michael should be all of the proof that Michael is the only person who knows this twist exists.
Well, yeah, we'll see. I mean, let's see. Yeah, I think with a second golden key in the house, maybe that will fully illuminate that light bulb that should already be off in his head. Like, Preston didn't approach me about this. Like, I could expose him as being a liar for not telling people about this. Like, he should come to me and be like, hush, hush, let's keep this secret. But
props to Michael for not telling anyone in 24 hours.
I keep on checking and searching.
Search the word key in the server. See.
Yeah, he hasn't said a word. I am on him like a hawk, trying to see if he spills, and he does not.
Before we get to winner picks, there were a couple alliances made in the course of 2 days. Just to cover them. New Skype conversation is Trey, Caro, and Megs. This was supposed to be a foursome with Jabbar, but this was the foursome that Meg shot down. Which then was formed into Bathroom D, which kicked Megs out and brought Megan in. So that's Trey, Caro, Megan, and Jabbar. That's Bathroom D. We have Almost, which is the Sarah, Erica, Liv, and Preston alliance that forms out of Liv and Rick kind of clearing the air, and Rick kind of putting in a good word for Sarah, and kind of like those two duos kind of coming together, Erica and Sarah, Liv and Preston. So that's Almost. And then the last one that was just formed while we were on call is Sweet Dreams, which is Jabbar, Megs, and Victoria, which has already been leaked. It was leaked by Jabbar hours ago to Caro. He told her, hey, Victoria came to me with this proposition for this trio. So Caro is already fully aware of it. So that will be out in give or take 2 days. So
it's not going to be out. Caro's going to be like, okay, now that tells me who I have to make an alliance with Victoria.
Well, Caro's pushing for Victoria to leave, so maybe she won't have to worry about it.
She'll still make an alliance with her before that happens.
Mess. All righty, let's get the winner.
Can we bring back posters like 2 questions after an eviction?
So we're doing winner picks. I mean, the 2 times that we've done this after an eviction, it's been kind of like enough into the round where we kind of have an idea who's going. So like, I feel kind of weird about doing the second question, but like, we can still do it. We've been keeping the winner pick question going.
It's okay. I did sit here and say, what the fuck was my other question?
Yeah, who's going home?
I only remembered winner.
Just that both times we've done it, we're like, well, we kind of have an idea who's winning HOH, so we have a decent idea of who's going next. Yeah. My winner pick, I'm going to keep with Megan. I think Megan's still in a great spot. She's in the power structure. People are clearly afraid to touch her, even though they know that if they want to take a shot at someone in the power structure, she needs to be a possible nominee, and that is currently preventing a bigger move from happening. She's pretty insulated, even with people like Victoria who really like her. So I think Megan right now is my winner pick. But again, I've seen this story before where she's doing super well and then gets yeeted mid-game. So I'm apprehensive.
I think Nikki goes here, and I am Against my better judgment, am keeping my current winner pick of Liv.
There's an avenue.
I also think Nikki goes here. I think regardless of whether veto gets used or whoever the three that she's up against, I do think she goes just because she's not having the calls she needs to have, and even if Victoria is not having great calls with other people, she's still having calls, which I think will eventually get into people's mind that she's calling them and that they can potentially utilize her, whereas Nikki's just not having calls. So I do think Nikki is going here, unfortunately, regardless of against Christian, Megs, or Victoria. I said Megan last round. I think I might switch right now to Sarah.
Thinking, yes.
I want to say Sarah because I think she is, from my perspective, she is somebody who is going to be, I don't want to say forgotten about, but she is somebody who's going to be just low enough on everybody's list that she's not going to be the main target. And there's always gonna. I feel like Sarah's going to be that person.
Can I tell you who she reminds me of? Sure. Like early on, Caro from season 16. Like genuinely. Like she was having necessary conversations, but she wasn't like at the top and she wasn't at the bottom. She just kind of floated through. And then Drew Face, she was like, "You're like, wait, Caro's in the middle of all of these? Like, what?" The only difference is that she's in the finale thingy, third place, whatever. Like, I think there's lots of similarities there. Anywho,
the only difference is that Sarah can win more comps than Caro can.
That. But not too much because Caro's won twice or something like that once.
Yeah. But I think there's Sarah's that person that's somebody else is always going to be ahead of her, because with all of these intertwined relationships of it and everything with basically everybody except her and Christian being from 16 and on, everybody's going to start attacking each other because they know how each other plays, and she's going, fuck off, Alex. You're right. Except she'll win this time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's always going to be somebody ahead of her because everybody else knows how each other plays, and all these seasons are so recent that most of us probably followed most of these seasons. So
I like it. There's gonna be that switch when people move to targeting the power structure, and if she's still in, she's not deemed the power structure. So
yep,
Tay has to pick a pre-juror.
Fuck you, Alex. I can see Megan or Trey potentially winning of the pre-jurors. Michael or Victoria, if they make it that far, it'll be a very interesting show. I think my winner pick is Erica right now. I think she, like, watching her on call is so great. Like, she speaks her mind to her allies. She's in such a great spot. She's not on anyone's radar. Even when people are talking about bigger people to get out, it's never Erica. She's doing great.
She's playing very well.
Yeah, she's in a good spot.
Mm-hmm.
Who's leaving next, Tay?
Well, I'm really upset about these nominations, but I'm going to be upset about all of them. I think it's hard. Okay, I think Nikki.
Okay, I'll go. I think the person evicted this round is going to be Christian. I think something is going to happen. I think a renom's going to happen. I think Liv is not going to. I don't need to explain it anymore. I think it's going to be Christian. My winner pick is, for some of the same reasons that we saw Sarah pick, Rizzo is my winner pick now.
I mean, you stole mine.
I think that he is doing enough to be just here. As people start to lose the allies, as big shots are taken, he is the next person you pull up as your big ally. I think he's in a great spot compared to what he was in round 1 and 2. I think he's in a fantastic spot.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. I still forget Rizzo is on this season, and
yet he's the winner.
but that's a good thing because considering the preseason content that we got from this man, like
Yeah.
to say that Rizzo is under the radar right now, because he kind of is under the radar. I'm like shocked that I'm saying that on day
In the best way.
in the best way, because the alternative of what it could be was chaos and mess and first boot. Like that's what we were expecting. So maybe this is just like a product of like the bar was so low for him based on like what he said he was going to do. Stokes never bought it. But Rizzo, I think, is even compared to preseason expectations, Rizzo is objectively playing really well. So I'm excited to see how that goes, because no one is talking about Rizzo as negatively ever. So.
And if you are, you get on one call with him and you're like,
exactly,
I love him.
So, yep, I think the season is still very wide open. We're still waiting for that transition to happen when people stop going after these house targets and start actually playing the game. And that opens up other people to feel like they can start playing the game. And then you've got these people who aren't in like the best of spots right now. Like I wouldn't say Rizzo's in a brilliant spot short term, but he's in a great spot long term, as is Sarah. Like you have those players who kind of sneak under the radar, and next thing you know, they're at the top 6, and you're like, oh shit, damn, who would have thought this after the first couple of weeks? So we're about to hit that spot. So I definitely have eyes on some of those people as well. I think those are all great picks. I mean, anyone can win, other than I think there's a few people in my mind that right now I just don't think can win. But we'll see. I mean,
and those people will all be pre-jury.
Right now, unless the house target narrative goes away, I fear for Nikki, Victoria, and Christian. I do fear for them deeply, but that's all they need is that transition. And next thing you know, no one wants to waste an HOH on a house target. So that's all they need is one round to make it happen.
The thing that I hate so much, and I know that people use this, and not to belabor this house target narrative too much, but the thing I really hate about it, as soon as you get rid of them, you have to then move more people into that lower tier. And one person I see very quickly getting moved into the lower tier of house target is Lamont. And so like he is someone who benefits from not letting these people leave, because he is going to become an easy target very fast.
That's why that's why the Madison vote was so intriguing. It was such a landslide. I was like, some of y'all need her here. Some of y'all should get rid of Michael.
No, like when you have 12 people voting the same way, like it's not good for all 12 of those people most of the time.
Yeah, like Lamont, Nikki, were 2 of them. I think Sarah could have benefited from Madison staying. There definitely are a few people who I'm like,
Louise.
Yeah, I'm like, some of y'all should have saved her. But, nor here nor there. But we're going to peace on out. It's been 2 hours, but it's been 2 days. So we won't be back till Tuesday, likely, for a tea. And so we'll keep you posted on the Live Spiral Watch and all that fun stuff in the next couple of days. Love her, but she's gonna. We're gonna get a novel in her DR tonight. I appreciate all her thoughts, but she is gonna think about every voter that could maybe send Megs home tonight, and you'll get every word, every syllable of it. So,
and if she is about to do veto, and if she thinks she did well in veto, you're gonna hear even more.
God help us! God help us! So let's pray she flops so she can let this idea go. But for me, for Foster, for Max, for Kadri, for Tay, and for Lee, we're peacing on out. We hope you got all the tea you wanted and deserved. Bye.